Wanda Maximoff rewrote New Jersey without even knowing what her powers were. What will she get up to now that she has the instruction book? WandaVision has finally come and gone, and just like Wanda messes with the minds of her opponents, she has messed with the minds of the viewers as well. WandaVision is just the first entry for what promises to be a reality-warping Phase 4 and beyond. And at the center of it is the already powerful Avenger who just got an upgrade. Can she really avoid becoming the villain? The Infinity Saga was a pretty straightforward story after all. It introduced us to a world of heroes with plenty of bad guys to fight, with one thread big enough to bring everyone together in one big final party to save the universe. Now, with that universe saved, there's the troubling business of getting on with things. Unfortunately, there have been some scars left over from the Infinity Saga that take us into Phase 4, and promises to be an even bigger threat than Thanos. There is one big change that no one in the MCU so far has started to deal with, but it hasn't escaped the sharp minds in our comment section who have said, "First!" But also, commenter Mahir Gangwal pointed out a key function of the Infinity Stones that the Ancient One stressed to Bruce Banner to explain why she didn't just give the Eye of Agamotto to any jolly green giant that came asking for it. As the Ancient One explains, the Infinity Stones create what we experience as the flow of time. Presumably otherwise, the universe would experience existence like photons that don't experience time, but rather are created and absorbed as one thing. With the stones destroyed, Mahir Gangwal points out the membranes that have been holding the universe together and controlling its flow are going to start breaking down, including the barriers between universes. As it turns out, there are a lot of fail-safes, beings, items, and artifacts that are also somehow responsible for holding the universe together, which makes sense. The universe is a big and complicated place. You didn't want to leave that to just a rare gem collection. One of those beings that helps hold up the walls for a reality is what's called a Nexus Being. Every reality gets one. Nexus Beings really only have one job, and that's to hold up their reality. To do that, they can actually alter the timeline of their reality through probability. Usually, they also have another power, but lucky 616 and 199999, Wanda's power is also hex manipulation. With a power amplified by her station, reality is pretty much whatever Wanda wants it to be. Just ask the people of Westview. The next element is the Darkhold. Fans of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will remember the Darkhold as the book that gave anyone who read it disturbing powers, able to create entire Matrix-style reality constructs and even a spirit of vengeance with a penchant for muscle cars. For the Marvel Universe, the Darkhold is essentially a sourcebook of all spellbooks written by one of the oldest beings to call our little blue dot home. In the early days of the universe, it was pretty much just beings of immeasurable power, but it turns out that they make a pretty terrible society, especially when they start hitting on ideas like eating another being absorbs their power. I don't know what the power of a potato chip is, but I think I might have it. I am a couch potato. Does that count? Anyway, one of the gnarliest of these beings was Chthon, who had to be run off by, who else? Demogorge, the God Eater. This might have happened on a day the Marvel offices couldn't get a deli to deliver lunch. Regardless, Chthon wrote down all of his darkest magic into a set of scrolls and left them on Earth before leaving in the hopes that the book would eventually be his portal back to this world. In the meantime, everyone from Dracula to Conan have used the book to do terrible things to our reality. And now, the most powerful magic being on Earth is flipping through it unsupervised, and all she knows about it is that she's in it. This does not bode well for the multiverse. One thing we know for sure about Phase 4 and beyond is that the multiverse is very important. Spider-Man is set to meet foes he's had in different franchises, and if the internet has made their collective wish strong enough, even other Spider-Mans, guys that can do whatever a spider can. Doctor Strange's next outing is in the Multiverse of Madness, and his co-star is none other than the Nexus Being studying the Darkhold, looking for children that really should not exist. Of the movies coming out that don't have Doctor Strange in them, the Eternals are a team that was built in the aftermath of all that gods-eating gods phase Earth went through, which will perhaps shine more light on the Darkhold. The real monster at the end of the book, however, is some version of House of M. In the comics, House of M was sort of a cleaning house event, as Wanda eventually whispered those fateful words, "No more mutants," and suddenly the mutant population was drastically reduced. As Fox was absorbed by Disney like a hungry elder god consuming another to gain its power, the rights to the mutants returned to the MCU. This has led fans and Feige himself implying or speculating that House of M would be the way to bring mutants into the MCU, and that Scarlet Witch is the most important being in the MCU right now. Which she is. She's also sad, profoundly alone, and reading a book meant to bring an evil primordial god back to our plane of existence. Someone whose sadness had her engulf an entire town. There are a couple of ways that she could end up ending the multiverse. Accidentally summoning Chthon, going to another reality to get a version of her kids, a big no-no for Nexus beings, they can't physically leave their reality for another. She could end up altering the future of her timeline so severely that it ends up disrupting others. Thanos should have learned her name. A lot of this might have been avoided if someone had just explained adoption to Wanda. No magic children, no demonic spirit shards being pulled from another dimension, no children disappearing when you're not there, freaking out the babysitter who's an evolved cow, so that's saying something.